Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, we are live for the Beacon TVL show. It's me, Chris, head coach over at Beacon DeFi. Got a great guest this week on panel. We have Robert Arthur Williams.
Right, cool name.
Good to see you, sir. Got DeFi personality, community manager, has been involved with some certain products like Reserve, Centrifuge. Welcome aboard, sir. Good to see you. I'm excited to have you here on panel. Um, how are you doing? How's the market looking on your side of the planet?
Well, my side of the planet technically is Mexico City. So,
There we go.
but yeah, GM, sir, thanks for having me. Good to be here. I'm excited for today's show.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, for me, the market's just it's just chopping, It's just sideways as far as I can tell, and it's only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time. You know that's a great way to look at it. If we look at the markets real quick, uh, you know,
Yeah.
everything was riding high over the weekend, right? If we look at how the weekend was shaping up, we had Chairman Powell, flipping somewhat dovish, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And then we ate a ton of liquidations yesterday. And let's kind of just kind of walk into exactly, what happened there. Ultimately, oh gosh, we had a little bit of dumpski. Ultimately, they're saying from a technical standpoint, we uh we touched the 50 DMA and essentially kind of went below that resistance level. Someone started panicking, call it manipulation if you want. And then a whole bunch of longs probably got liquidated at that point, sending the price down because there probably wasn't a whole lot of support below that. I'm not a huge TA guy, but um,
Mhm.
we were looking specifically with this pivot that for him to flip, with this optimistic look that we were going to have rate cuts soon, some injection liquidity, maybe some easing back into Fed policy. Uh, Everything looked good. We had an inflow of 543 million, over the weekend, as we after he spoke at Jackson Hole. Um, don't know how much of a Bitcoin guy you are, Robert, but what was your attitude going into at least yesterday? With the way the market was looking.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I wasn't expecting that. This recent dip we're having now, if you want to call it that. I thought that because from my perspective, it does seem like the stock market, is already pricing in a lot of these rate cuts, but the crypto market is like lagging behind, and so it is a bit of a surprise to see us kind of keep going up and keep dipping like this. It is a bit nauseating, all this chop up and down. Um, but I do think the crypto market will catch up. I've been watching some news on this, and from what I've heard, there's in terms of like the prediction markets and so forth. There's about eight eight rate cuts being priced in over the
8.
course. Yeah, eight actually. Yeah, so that's I got that from Virtual Bacon actually. He just did a
Ah,
recent video on that. Worth checking out. It's actually a pretty reasonable view. And so with eight rate cuts, that would carry us through mid 2025, like June of 2025. And so with those rate cuts, inevitably comes an increase in M2.
yep.
And so for that reason, I think we have a lot of runway to take off over the next, 12 months, maybe more. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, if you look at the charts historically, where this is just part of that correction that you're just going to go back and forth before we get that upward trajectory. The markets are just interestingly sensitive, I think.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people who just want to play the game, I guess.
Yeah, and I would
Um,
say like I remember like I've been in the space. Well, I first discovered Bitcoin in 2013, and I've
yep.
been investing since 2017. And so I remember back then there was like somebody had mentioned this, and it was just like a general sentiment that like someone saying like, oh, one day we'll see like $1,000 pumps or dumps in one day. And now we're seeing like, $5,000 pumps and dumps in one day, and or variations in one day, and so, or in a few day time span. And so I think what it really speaks to this kind of volatility is it speaks to how much more the market's going to grow. So if we're seeing like variation, moves of this size during this choppy period over the past 6 months or so, or even before, I think that's a harbinger, or that's a sign of a lot of upside from here.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing too, and it's not on the agenda, but one thing that's going on specifically is NVIDIA earnings come out today. And NVIDIA, of course, being the leader amongst AI, especially with a lot of these decentralized AI protocols, or I think we're going to see an interesting move upwards based on how these earnings go. I think the earnings should be good overall. I haven't checked to see how it's been performing, but today's a pretty pivotal day specifically for AI tokens. So we'll see where we go from here. As you can see, just scrolling down, a lot of the AI looking ones have been fairly green. So
yeah,
and
I think that whole sector is just getting warmed up. I mean, I know there was a run earlier in the year
for Tau, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but that still has a lot of room to grow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if you're out there, if you're holding your bags, continue to do so. If you have the ability, of course, to farm them, earn on your stake while you wait, do it. Might as well make your money work for you. That's the key part of what we do here. And again, just wanted to hype up our community real quick. Say hello to everybody with Total Value Locked, our free community here from Beacon DeFi. If you're looking to become a DeFi pro, I learn from the best in the business. Join us absolutely free here, school.com/beacon. Got a lot of cool things coming over the next week to the group. I'll let you guys learn more about that when we meet next week. But yeah, I got some things cooking in the kitchen. I think you guys are gonna be really happy with. So join the hundreds. We've grown since we've had this group since February. We're on the way to 1,000 members here on the school platform. Please help us reach that goal. Have a lot of great things planned at 1,000 once we get there moving forward. So excited. It's been an exciting time. Love the amount of engagement that we have here at Beacon and here at TVL, at Total Value Lock. So again, feel free to join us absolutely free. Learn from the best in the business. School.com/beacon. So moving forward, probably the other leading part of the news is Telegram founder and CEO Pavel Durov. Papa Pavel, if you want to call him that.
Another shakedown.
Another shakedown. This one is interesting. So I just this is the COINTELEGRAPH article. This is a timeline of what they know so far. So they are updating it. And a lot of people are coming out in support of Durov, specifically on the Telegram side. If you're trying to farm these mini apps like we've been doing in our community for quite some time, a lot of people are in support of him. I guess he's going into a Paris court soon, and he's really just being questioned. From what I've seen, he's being questioned for activities that have happened on Telegram that he doesn't have the best controls over.
I think that's a really dangerous precedent to be setting.
Right? This part, I'm like, so are you going to go after Mark Zuckerberg? Or you can go after anybody with a social media? You can go after Elon Musk. Elon, don't fly to France. If you're looking,
they want the back door.
They want the back door. It's like, it's one of those things where, they want to grab anyone they can. Maybe they just grabbed him and he's a French citizen, by the way. So,
which seems to be an error in judgment on his part.
Yeah, I think so. But it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's really more about the fact that he's not policing what's happening here on Telegram. And that's a very slippery slope, because obviously, I mean, I opened Facebook just yesterday, and I am I don't use Facebook very often, but I'm being served ads with full on nudity in them. No idea how,
Mhm.
because I don't do anything like that on Facebook, or why Facebook would even have that. So it's like, what is going on? I mean, algorithms are, just kind of glitching, and who
Right.
knows what's happening. But this is very troubling if they're gonna go after him, because, and it looks like this is the OF Min, yeah, the French office, I guess, for the protection of minors, meaning people under the age of adulthood,
Mhm.
for specific issues on not policing any terrible things. I mean, go look at Twitter and Reddit if you want to, if you're curious about the craziness that happens on all kinds of social media. It's there's gonna be a huge correction on stuff like this. Now, with that said, Ton as a token did drop quite a bit. Looks like it's kind of started to, well, no, it's still down. Still a decent entry. Of course, there's more to it because Ton actually stopped producing blocks for for 6 hours last
Right.
night. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Robert? I wanted to get your thoughts specifically on what's happening with
Yeah.
Pavel Durov here. This is troubling.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's an age old playbook. Not only shaking down the founder of a company to try to get access to all the activity that's taking place on their platform, um, but also using kind of like false pretenses to do it. I mean, the same thing happened. I mean, it's a similar example, but more extreme with Ross Ulbricht and the Silk Road. Although you can make the argument that like that was pretty obviously a black market, so that was a more extreme example. But the Telegram is an app that everybody uses for everyday stuff. I mean, the vast majority of people don't even see anything nefarious on there in their day to day usage, and so it brings up the question of like, um, is it a crime to create software that uses encryption or protects users' privacy? I mean, that's essentially that's what they're going after. That's like if you just undress the whole situation, that like they're using whatever activity could be taking place on there. If it's like 0.01% of the activity on there, if it's child trafficking, or if it's like money laundering, or drug dealers and so forth. I mean, it's an extreme, extreme, extreme minority of activity on there. And so, yeah, they're just doing the typical tactic of using that as a pretense for breaking through the privacy features of these platforms. I mean, and the same thing has been done with Bitcoin. I mean, for up until maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, when BlackRock, finally decided to enter the game. Bitcoin was supposed to be a platform for money laundering and sex trafficking and all this horrible, nefarious stuff. So
Or playing poker.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's a big evil crime gambling syndicate on Bitcoin. Uh, yeah, it's just typical. And I mean, it's possible that that stuff exists within Telegram, but it's an open platform that anybody can use. The messaging, um, the platform itself is not decentralized. It's,
No.
it's not exactly like a blockchain peer-to-peer platform, but it does use encryption and it does protect users' privacy to some extent. So that's what they don't like.
Yep,
And
and I think that's exactly what Susan said here. They hate that we can find a way to be private from their oversight, and essentially that's the reason why most sovereign nations hate decentralization. Uh, you know, everything we built in DeFi, because they don't own a piece of it. They have no way to get their fingers in and tax it and find ways to profit off of it.
I mean, it's
Uh,
really a mafia. I mean, I don't mean to overgeneralize, but like the government to some degree, in certain aspects, is like it's like a formalized mafia, and they just want a piece of things, and they want access.
they
So
want access.
yeah.
Well, I will say that I don't normally, and I posted this on our TVL group yesterday.
Mhm.
Um, I do follow Officer CIA quite a bit. Really good stuff from him from a security standpoint. Not something that'll happen. Pardon me.
Mhm.
But I didn't realize that this happened by default. So if you have an iOS device, go into iTunes and App Store purchases and don't allow deleting apps because by default it's on. So not that anything whatever, not saying that they would go and delete the app, but there was some rumors on the timeline
Mhm.
that Telegram may actually be forced to be removed from the Apple Store. So definitely if you have an iOS device, again, just more if you use Telegram, you believe in what Telegram is trying to do here, make sure that the system period, if you install an app, again, if you install an app, and this really is probably also for protection of people who don't know what they're doing, uh, turn that off so they can't just automatically delete apps for you. You probably should turn off the installing the apps as well, to be honest, but you know I don't know.
I did hear though that in the EU they are as a monopoly busting thing, they are going to force Apple, I think, to have App Store alternatives.
Yeah, so they're slowly chipping into the walled garden, right? So they forced Apple to they forced their hand on moving away from Lightning to USB-C, which they should have done a long time ago. Um, and with all the privacy and GDPR, they're going to also allow sideloading, which will allow anyone to be able to use the app store of their choice. Of course, Apple has a huge monopoly here.
Mm.
Um, in terms of they if you're going to be having an app through the app store, you have to give 15 to 30% depending on your revenue levels to Apple. So um you're eating it when you mess with someone's money.
Yeah.
That's the old saying, but
Well,
I don't know.
if we get less dongles somehow, it'll be a good thing.
Yeah, and or if anything, if they could make some of these other phones like the Solana Saga actually a good phone, then maybe you might hear some barking over
Mhm.
this. But at least in the United States, Apple has a chokehold on the mobile market. They've just been able to, from a cultural standpoint, provide a much more palatable experience, probably for the majority of people that don't know technology. They've made it fairly easy to get in their ecosystem, and once you're in, it's hard to
Mhm.
get out, which is really the part that kind of gets you. So
It would be interesting to see like a highly composable, upgradable Web3, friendly phone at some point. And maybe I'm not sure if you're a fan of Elon or not, but Elon did pose the idea of a Tesla phone. So something like that. I mean,
yeah, we'll
the,
see.
Web3 aside, I mean, the composable phone, with interchangeable parts and upgradability is always awesome. So,
That's a bridge too far, Robert.
yeah.
That's anti-capitalist
Oh
rhetoric right there.
no.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
And anti-monopoly.
Oh yeah, because the taking away the right to repair for any of us regular people that are out here.
We're not paying $400 for a RAM upgrade. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going a little off the beaten path here.
No, that's okay. What I wanted to kind of talk about, because this one actually just made me laugh, uh, mainly because of the people that were in. So as you know, former President Trump was at Bitcoin 2024 as the headline speaker. The road to get him there has been interesting, it turns out, because he has famously tweeted back in 2019 about Bitcoin not being real money and illiquid and just a bad investment. One second.
As did Larry Fink.
Well, he's seemingly done a pretty good 180 on that, right?
Mm.
This is an interesting article. I had not read this, but um, he was orange pilled by three people. And again, to say three Bitcoiners in Puerto Rico, let's not kid ourselves. The majority of people who have made money in crypto have moved to Puerto Rico because of the no capital gains and the 4% business tax. So ultimately, a group of three people, meaning let's see, who are they? One of them is the CEO of Bitcoin.com, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, Bitcoin Incorporated, BTC Incorporated, David Bailey, uh, Tracy Hoyos Lopez, and Amanda Fabiano, who is a huge Bitcoin miner um, executive. Basically, they found a way to kind of get into the ear of President Trump through his orbit, and then held a meeting with him with some other people in the space to turn him on to what Bitcoin mining is, why it's good for the U.S. economy, and whatnot. It's a fascinating read. I'll have it here in the show notes for you, which you can of course check out when you head to TVL. But yeah, it's interesting to have a group full of people, people from Riot, from Marathon, Terra Wolf, and Core Scientific, all big heavy hitters in the miner industry, to meet at Mar-a-Lago to really just have a roundtable with Trump to show him, just the I guess the beauty or the benefits of having, Bitcoin miners and just Bitcoin in general as an asset to help the country make America great again. And as you all saw in Nashville, he very much took that to heart. The fact that we reported, like 3 weeks ago, Marathon Digital on all blocks they get now stamped "Made in the USA" in the metadata is, all part of this whole marketing strategy. So, yeah, if you're looking for an interesting read, this one's a fascinating read on how they got him to be, bullish on Bitcoin after so many years of him not really giving, two shits about it, honestly. Clearly he's, and not to say that he doesn't know about Bitcoin, he doesn't know about crypto, because he makes millions off of the NFTs and the other things that he already has in crypto. So he is aware of these things, but the benefits on how he can make it work for his platform cemented by these three. So, very interesting read. I guess it's just kind of more like a how we got to Nashville in 2024. So, any thoughts that you have on this, Robert, before we move on?
Yeah, I was thinking hopefully they explain to him that you can't have all miners in the U.S. because he I think his knowledge is above average, which is
Yeah,
good.
it is now.
Yeah, and even better now maybe, especially since pivoting. But during one of his speeches, I think during the initial pivot, he was like, "Oh, we're going to bring all the mining to the U.S." And everyone was like, "Hey, wait a second! You need Bitcoin's distributed globally." So yeah, hopefully they explain that to him too.
Yeah, and I think, Susan's point of the number of people in the space, that was the trigger. It'd be one thing if it were honestly just a bunch of regular people that, he may not have deemed as, all that big to listen to. But I think seeing the breadth of people that came to him, there's a ton of money in this space. He sees from a business standpoint specifically how it's going to work. And, his sons are seemingly now very well educated as well, with Eric Trump talking about, a DeFi platform they're going to have with tokenized real estate, which is something we'll talk about in just a little bit. For him to come out and just literally say that DeFi is the future. And I'm just like, oh boy, here we go. Yeah, right. we're going to see a very interesting next 6 to 12 months. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think crypto is I think they're now the number one donor. The number one donor in,
yes,
for politics.
So. Oh yeah. And lots of people are throwing money at both campaigns at this point.
Mm-hmm.
To try and and they're hedging their bet one way or another, I suppose. Mm-hmm. Speaking of crypto, and again, I don't think this had anything to do with all of the liquidations we saw, but they shouldn't. Celsius has distributed $2.5 billion from their bankruptcy proceedings. Over 121,000 have yet to claim their funds, which is fine. I don't expect most people to. I'm guessing most of these people that got it either heard about it through Coinbase, because Coinbase is one avenue that they're getting the money out, as well as through mail. So, yeah, through mail. And whatever else. Obviously, thanks to the data breach at Celsius, a lot of us, I don't even answer my phone anymore. The number of data breaches, Celsius, BlockFi, everything that's out there, Evolve, Bank and Trust. Yeah, I'm getting emailed and called all day long by people. Um, be careful out there. One thing too, before I continue, just as a word to just be really vigilant about your OPSEC, your operational security. We're seeing multiple discords being compromised over the last couple months. Really big ones like AVAX and Polygon both got compromised on their discord. So please, if you are in a position where you can moderate a discord, please be careful of the links that you click on. Please be vigilant about your security. The last thing you want is to be the source of an entire protocol going dark from a communication standpoint. And just exploits. These are all, just be very careful. I've even heard there's some Zoom things happening now, and it's just be
Always,
very careful.
always use 2FA for
Exactly.
every
Not
model.
SMS 2FA. Use like TOTP 2FA for sure.
Not SMS, no. Yeah.
Not SMS.
Use an authenticator. And for any mod or team member you have in your Discord with any permissions, definitely use an authenticator.
Yeah, everybody on our team has 2FA for Discord and all that type of stuff. I recommend that you do as well. Just as a safety precaution anyway, turn off all your DMs. Don't be in a situation where you can really just get yoinked. That's just bad. One thing to kind of note here, and the reason I brought this up is that we do have multiple members in our groups that have been in Celsius. Again, don't treat CEXs like banks. They're not savings accounts. They may have savings account type of facilities, and that's fine if you want to take advantage of them. Just don't put all your money there. Don't rely on it like a bank account, because in the event that, like what happened 2 years ago with Voyager, with Celsius, with FTX and all of these CEXs, they pretty much went by the wayside. Not your keys, not your crypto. So
get a hardware wallet.
Get a hardware wallet. Use it as the vehicle to get into DeFi like it has served until better on-ramping things happen. We'll go to activity. So we talked last week about Base and the layer 2 from Coinbase. They have the Base names. If you want to have your base.eth address, you can go and grab it. If you feel the need to tie a name to your wallet for ease of use for getting money sent back and forth. 200K were already done in the past week, and they've now hit more than 1 million daily active addresses on Base. And this is based off of a Dune dashboard, this one specifically. We're seeing just monumental increases in both users, activity, and protocols and TVL overall for Base over the last 6 to 8 months since they launched last August. Amazing to see the rise, quite honestly. It's hard to measure, of course, when you have Coinbase backing you, that makes a huge difference, but just the huge amount of activity that's happening. We always talk about in our groups about following the big ball of money. This is where the big ball of money is. You can also claim that Solana is there, but Solana doesn't have nearly as many DeFi protocols that Base does. So when we talk about a lot of things in our groups about being an Arbitrum and Base and Solana, this is why. We're going where all of the other investors are going, because that's where the best yields are going to come from. If you're going to be yield farming, you want to be where more people are. That's how the game's changed over the last 3 years. It's not so much a PvP as more of a volume rules all situation now. So congrats to Base for breaking 1 million daily active users. I even saw a chart yesterday where Aerodrome had more daily revenue than Ethereum and Solana, which is nuts if you think about how far they've come in such a short amount of time. So are you a big Base user, Robert?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah, Base is killing it. I use Aerodrome I have a few different positions open on Aerodrome. It's great. It's easy to use. As a U.S. citizen, Using my Coinbase account, I can easily get USDC to and from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
For
just
free.
yeah, for free, exactly. Yeah, so it's super easy to use. Obviously, gas fees are low, and I just think in terms of like UI and presentation and branding, like Base, they're really on it. So I think that's what makes it appealing too.
Yeah,
Um,
they're definitely leading the charge.
yeah,
That's for sure.
I think so.
I will talk about a project I talked about on our mastermind call on Monday, and that is relating to Base. That is Avagachi. They're releasing a layer 3 blockchain. Now, Avagachi, they're not specifically owned by Aave, but they play off the Aave Ghost avatar as a little bit of a it's just a gaming metaverse, if you want to call it that. They've been around forever.
I had a bag of Avagachi in 2020, 2021.
There you go. Exactly. So they have a new one called Geist, a layer 3 called Geist. Here's the thing about Geist that is interesting. Uh, and it looks really good. A lot of this, I think this is the tower defense game. Yeah, Gotcha Guardians. Uh, again, they're looking to make a quote unquote members only blockchain, meaning that you have to own an Avagachi NFT to be in there or to even just stake and earn rewards. We looked at on a call on the mastermind on Monday, we looked and the floor for most gotchis now are roughly about $150. So if you want to get in and, see if there's an ROI there for you, that's fine. But the Geist blockchain, you can get in that hasn't been launched. So you can get in this NFT. I'll have the notes on how to get in there along with this blog post there. But here's the interesting part. It's a layer 3, meaning it's built on top of another layer 2 blockchain. It's being built on top of Arbitrum as part of their Arbitrum Orbit stack. Here's the wrinkle. The payments are being settled on Base, a different layer 2, different stack. And they're using Alchemy as a roll-up partner for probably just getting all of this facilitated with their architecture. So it took me a couple of times to really wrap my head around how you even do that. But good on them for at least getting their testnet up, which is called Polter. Cute, because their chain's called Geist. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see what they've already got going on. They already have games that you can play on Geist as part of their testnet. So if you're interested, pretty cool idea. There's lots of cool ideas coming to Base and Arbitrum. So, be a very interesting October as we start moving into September and then pure October. So
yeah, I did notice actually that I read that there's been a recent uptick in the NFT market.
yeah, we'll talk about that in just a minute.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That could be a good sign. Let's see.
Yeah, super interesting sign, right? With everything going on, we'll talk about it now. NFT sales have rebounded after a very long decline, right? It was just kind of like if you had an NFT, I don't know what to tell you type of deal. But obviously, it's an illiquid asset. You don't see the liquidity in an NFT until you can find someone who's willing to buy it, right? So seeing all these floor prices being so high, it's because it's like collectibles. That's really the best way to look at it. But in any case, they are tokens with actual utility depending on the project. But overall, in the last 7 days, Polygon has 123% gain in 7-day sales. Ethereum with almost 33%, and Solana at 12%. So that's an interesting sign. I don't know if Magic Eden, I'll be honest, has any effect on this, because Magic Eden announced last Thursday that they're finally launching their ME token, and they just happen to have support for Polygon, Ethereum, and Solana. So whether or not this is related or not, but it's good to see that NFTs are starting to wake back up. Are you a big NFT guy, Robert?
I was never really huge into NFTs, but I did dabble in it. I still have a few holdovers from the last run, and so
Yeah.
If they pick up in price, I won't complain. That's for sure. Yeah.
I did want to shout out all of my fellow DGods members. I am a Utes and a DGod holder. I also had a 3-month unhealthy period collecting NFTs left and right.
It
But
was just passion. Yeah.
hey, it's magical. It's fun. I love supporting artists. If anything, a lot of my NFTs are there because I supported artists whose work I enjoy. Some of it's for the culture, some of it's for the lore, some is from utility, right? You
Mhm.
have certain things where if you have this NFT, you can get allow listed or whitelisted for future things down the road and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I think with like the overall RWA trend, I think inevitably NFTs will kind of have to make a comeback. If you start tokenizing more art, more music, more creative stuff like that, and that'll inevitably like kind of wake back up the industry.
no, and I completely agree. We're actually going to talk about this and what we learned specifically about this topic. So, yeah, we'll put a pin in that because I definitely want to grab these two last pieces before we head that way. The first being MakerDAO, Maker, rebranded, now called Sky Money. I didn't name it. It's fine. It's cool colors. Maker's been Maker forever. It's now called Sky Money. So, key points to know. DAI, Maker, MKR, still there. Can still have them and definitely will be around if you want to grab the new tokens. Of course, it's part of the end game that that the team has put together. The new token used to be called New Token. It's called USDS now for I guess USD Sky. And then the governance token for Maker is now going to be Sky Token. It looks like it's one. Looks like 24,000 Sky equals one MKR. If you're looking to do that, I'll have this link here. 24,000 Sky equals one Maker. So of course that's quite the stock split there. If you're looking to go that route. Um, but yeah, good luck to them. I'm curious to see from an infrastructure standpoint where Maker is going to go from here. I know that they were looking at possibly going to some sort of layer 2 roll up or layer 1 chain to follow in the steps of something like Synthetics or DYDX to bring more Maker core services and new core services they want to bring out, because I know they wanted a huge governance redo um, coming out this way. So uh, no new news for WBTC though. It's still gone from from die backing, but here we go. We're now in the era of Sky. So let me know in the comments if this is something that's interesting for you. And obviously, if you're here, you love seeing Robert on the screen, give us a like as well. Love to see some subscriptions. Help us out in the algorithm. And of course, join TVL. But your thoughts on this, Robert, about this rebrand? Obviously, we've been seeing it, we've been talking about it for months, but to see it actually here, very colorful, easy on the eyes.
I think it's cool. Yeah, I think like Die, like for some people, I think it was like Patrick from Dynamo DeFi.
Yep.
He recently tweeted out like, it's cool that they're putting USD in the name. Easier to comprehend for a broader audience. And yeah, I mean, like MakerDAO, like they're a huge player in the stablecoin and DeFi space. But they do have this kind of like image as like a really like the whole governance thing kind of like weighs heavy in their brand. Like there's like a really like hardcore, intense governance debates, kind of really stuffy, kind of challenging, difficult environment there. So this looks like a really positive, kind of fun rebrand, which I think will be really good for them.
The sky's the limit. That's a dad joke. I'm sorry. I
I
had to make
know
it.
about the same thing. Not seriously.
I had to
Um,
make it.
yeah. No, I think it's great though.
Yeah, and so this should hopefully get some new renewed interest, I guess, in Maker, or at least in Sky, and we'll see. I would love to see Sky get USDS out there, putting it on all the major L2s, getting even popping stuff in Aerodrome or Velodrome, and getting the VE NFT dexes out there using this type of stuff. That's where you're going to find so many investors these days in these VE NFT dexes. Uh, Start getting the flywheel ready. So
For sure.
we'll see where we go from here. Speaking of flywheel, we'll talk about a stable coin that we completely shat on for the first half of the year, which is PYUSD from PayPal.
Who doesn't want to shit on PayPal, honestly?
I mean, they
Just
they
joking.
hit they hit a billion in market cap,
Yeah.
which is crazy. I mean, not crazy, but good for them. It's obviously we like seeing multiple different types of stablecoins. Of course, the ultimate centralized stablecoin in PYUSD, but it is from Paxos, so you have good auditing there. Paxos, of course, was part of was the custodian for BUSD on Binance Smart Chain, and they had exquisite monthly auditing on their backing. So um, a lot of things have come into favor for PayPal to make this a reality. First of all, they made the move to Solana. This was huge for them. There's a great market for PYUSD at Camino at Drift. You can earn in excess of 15 to 20% on your PYUSD just by supplying, which is great. Um, Not really catching on too quickly in the EVM space. I know that the Vault on Curve and Convex are still kind of quiet, but maybe we start to see some inroads. They've partnered with MoonPay, they've partnered with Polymarket, they've partnered with Crypto.com as an easy way to onboard and pay on Crypto.com. So again, these are all things that have worked out for them. Can they continue the run? I mean, they're a 1 billion market cap. USDC's at 35. Tether is at 118 billion or whatever the number is. It's a ridiculous number. Um, Competition's a good thing, specifically in stablecoins. Um, Stablecoins are still the killer app of crypto. So hopefully this means more people coming into the space with PayPal's marketing engine. Um, I mean, can you imagine being able to pay off auctions on eBay or a decentralized version of eBay where you can use PYUSD to bid on uh, on auctions? I think that would be pretty interesting to see. Um, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it functions essentially like Circle, I mean, if it has the same kind of like proximity of service to Circle, I think it's not a bad thing. PayPal with their traditional business model, that's why I made that kind of jab at them earlier, is because they're known for like locking people out of their accounts and having high fees, et cetera, et cetera. So, or having like nasty spreads on exchange rates, and so
Yep.
which I've experienced here in Mexico. I'm based in Mexico City. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think if they offer a service that is pretty similar to USDC, I think it's a good thing. It's a positive thing, and it'll just be another big rail for the next wave into crypto.
Agreed. And that's the thing. They have the brand name recognition. Um, you know, Susan's got it right on the she said it right on the nose. It's a path in, right? For Web 2,
Mm-hmm.
PayPal's a very easily recognized brand. They probably have the trust of quite a few people in the that are normal people. All the time it's like when you're looking to pay for something, it's like if somebody has PayPal, I'll probably choose PayPal over their actual shopping cart half the time, because I know that PayPal, I have a specific amount of trust. I guess I now have implied trust in PayPal because I'm thinking about it now. They have they have my address, they have all my payment information. They're a way people get paid, they're a way people make money. They have this implied trust, whether you want it or not. And for most people, at least in this country, not sure how big PayPal's reach is out there in Mexico, but
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah, they exist here, but yeah, I mean, at least with these quote unquote trusted brands, you feel like you have some degree of support or some recourse in case something goes wrong. I mean, if it's a stable coin, they have to educate their users on the irreversibility of sending crypto transactions. Um, but still, I mean, they at least that there's someone there to support and talk to there in case something goes wrong. So I
yeah,
think
I'm waiting for the wallet. The wallet's coming, and I'm not
yeah,
going to enjoy that experience at all.
right, yeah. But I think
But
that's a major factor though for we're like kind of a niche we're still kind of in a niche phase for crypto. And so to get to that extra, 60, 70, 80% of people out there, whatever it is now, they're going to want customer service. So
Yeah, and that's going to be the tough part for them. Can you onboard straight from PayPal? Yes. Are the fees high? Yes. Is it worth onboarding straight from PayPal? No. just if you're going to honestly, if you're going to do it and you already have access at crypto.com, just buy it on crypto.com and then withdraw it to Solana, honestly, or just buy it on Solana. Probably the better route anyway. That we don't have the exposure to it if you need to redeem it. And in the event that you need to, just swap it for regular native USDC on Solana on Jupiter or something like that. And you should be good to go. But yeah, good for them on making that transition. We'll go ahead and move into what we've learned. Thanks again, Robert, for being here. Again, like and subscribe, help us out in the algorithm. It's been a great talk so far. Our main thing we'll talk about today is we're in a meme coin super cycle, no doubt about it. To the point that it's because we've seen more meme coins released in the last 3 months than in the entire amount of meme coins ever released. Period. So we have,
thanks to Pump.fun, things like that.
Exactly. Thanks to Pump.fun. They've made it free now to launch a meme coin. The first person who buys just has to pay the fees to initialize liquidity, which is just $3 or something like that. A far cry from the 3 sol or whatever it used to be to launch a token on various, even if you use ChatGPT to release a token, the problem is you had to provide the liquidity. And that's how rugs happen. Well, Pump.fun kind of gave a solution for that. And we've got a bunch of different platforms besides Pump.fun. We have Moonshot, we have Dumpy. That's actually a shorting market, my fault. Sun Pump now, which is huge on Tron. That's the big news for a lot of degens right now. Start cooking on Cosmos, for on Osmosis specifically. There's just a ton of meme coin factories coming. There's been a couple on base as well.
I want to add here too. I think meme coin pumps. I mean, traditionally it's been limited to the big ones like Doge or Shiba.
Yeah.
But those meme coin markets, when they pump, also usually another sign of a bull market to come. Usually they precede big bull markets.
Yeah, and to highlight Stacy's post here, and thanks for posting this, Stacy. It's a bit of a wake-up call. Your chance of making it in a meme coin from Pump.fun or at least some of these factories, I guess, is now worse than winning the lottery. To a degree. So it's more of a word of warning for any new people who are watching this. Yes, it's great to learn how to make the money. But the biggest issue here is that it's not making the money. That's the hard part now. It's keeping it, right? So, just going to give the warning to anybody who's brand new in this space. Unless you're looking to lose money and you really just honestly, just subconsciously just want to lose it, stay away from these things. Mm-hmm. They are lovely. In fact, Pump.fun's website will give you a seizure if you're sensitive to that type of stuff. It's terrible. Yes, there are people who will make money off of this. Yes, they're going to spend thousands of dollars to do it, just in terms of gas, in terms of all these other things you don't think about when you're trying to snipe a meme coin. Slippage, buy-sell tax, it's all out there. I mean, I could go days after this because this is how I grew up in this space. But that's not how I stay in this space. You're playing a really supremely dangerous game if you're looking to put big fat stacks of money into meme coin factories. The majority of them do not get to the quote unquote graduation phase. I'm not saying don't do it. If you want to do it because you love the thrill, do it. It's a great dopamine hit. But as part of what we talk about with our coursework, we always say with stuff like meme coins and high risk stuff, 2 to 5% of your portfolio. Be smart about it. Know that you're never going to win. And even the best people I know, in all kinds of back channel conversations that I have, they really just talk about breaking even most times. They're not talking about all the huge gains they've made. It's about just breaking even and actually covering losses from other things they got into. You don't have to make your portfolio management be that way. So don't do it from the beginning. Any of your thoughts, Robert?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was going to say don't do it actually, but I'm not giving any advice here. But I would say just treat it like an arcade game, like you're going to an arcade. I'm depending on your portfolio, keep the percentage super low, like Chris was saying, like 1%, 2%, something really small like that. Just treat it like an arcade game. If you want to play around with it just for fun, let's say you have a portfolio of $10,000 or something, maybe put in $50, like treat like you're putting a coin into a game. That's not advice. That's not financial advice, but that's how I would approach it, just to play around a little bit. But in terms of putting anything substantial in there, I mean, I wouldn't do it personally.
Yeah, completely agree. We're going to move on, and it's more of a PSA than anything. So thanks, Stacy, for that thread.
Mm-hmm.
Recommend everybody, if you're really big into meme coins, like you're in a group that's into meme coins, man, that's a lot of time that you're you're spending chasing and chasing and chasing. Um, that's all I'll say about it. We've got plenty of strategies to counteract that, and essentially, you don't want to be PvP, you want to be PvE. You want to profit off of their efforts, and I'll leave it at that. One thing we want to talk about as well, Robert, with your experience at Reserve, is specifically about RWAs. We'll talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
RWAs, real world assets. For most people, they look at RWAs in this space as assets that are based on something tokenized. And for many people in this space, it's US short-term treasury bonds, rather, T-bills, some long. But we've seen multiple types of collateral backing: real estate, gold, silver. I've seen wheat, oil, rice, and chickens at some point. We talked about this offline before we came on. The idea that governments and entities around the world want to tokenize everything is a really interesting conversation, because frankly, to get to where DeFi is the backbone of everything, to quote Stanley Kulichov from Aave in his great article this week, check that out, we're going to have a massive event of tokenization of many things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
go ahead and start riffing on that, sir.
No. Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's right on. Yeah. So I think that is the end game for traditional finance, as they're heading this direction too. I mean, so I'm not nobody knows the exact right answer here in terms of how this is going to work in terms of liquidity, and in terms of how it's going to work in terms of usability and composability with certain DeFi instruments. Because obviously things like real estate, or even commodities in some cases. Well, commodities are a little more liquid, but with real estate, for example, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts there. Legally, different parties involved, that where you can't just liquidate a house basically,
Not
to,
yet.
yeah, to act as collateral for DeFi. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, that could come in the form of fractionalization of real estate, that might add some sort of more liquidity there. But the bigger picture, I think, is just it seems like traditional finance wants to tokenize things to decrease friction, and make finance more efficient. and reduce costs wherever they can. And they see a big opportunity there in terms of saving money on the margins, in terms of efficiency. And that should bode well for DeFi and the broader crypto space. It should introduce a lot of a tremendous amount of liquidity into the space. But yeah, when it comes to questions like things like real estate, that are kind of like boggled down in a lot of legal framework, and not necessarily so liquid, it's interesting to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a, I think we're going to see more movement in this. I know that I think the last Bitcoin Miami, there was Milo Finance, which allowed you to get U.S. Mortgages on the blockchain. I mean, I think we're, in terms of tokenizing everything, we're going to start seeing, I think real estate's the easiest example outside of, precious metals and stuff like that. One of my favorite stories in blockchain is the country of Indonesia. They want to blockchain everything in Indonesia. How soon they'll get there, no idea, but they wanted to have a tokenized fish market. We reported on this like a year and a half ago on this show. So the idea that you could actually own shares in entities, and we talked about it last week with the tokenized church, about being able to raise funds and you have fractional ownership in an entity and you profit off of whatever they're doing. It's a really compelling example of how blockchain can help out later on, right? To be able to take ownership in something and then turn it into a tokenized model, turn it to fractional ownership, and then sell that, to the highest bidder in a decentralized way is actually really fascinating. It's hard to wrap your head around sometimes because you think you'd want some sort of quality controls, but I guess in the free market aspect of how DeFi is going to hopefully or eventually move to, it's all about just keeping the system running and humming. One other group in particular that I know has been pretty active in this space, and I don't know if we talked about them here, but Figure Lending, they actually are producing, I'm not going to say mortgage-backed securities for all my friends who love The Big Short, but HELOCs specifically for tokenization on, I want to say it's called Provident or Provenance, one of the two. But they're offering portfolios of RWAs, stablecoins backed by HELOCs. We're going to see more of stuff like this moving forward. I'm not going to say we're going to see a revisit to things like, C grade and mortgage-backed securities or anything like that in crypto. But I wouldn't be shocked if we got something like that, right? If someone created an ETF of tokenized distressed properties, it would not shock me, honestly. So, with your experience, in currency, what are looking at things like reserve, what's like the major, mission statement for why tokenization with different currencies is going to be so important, I guess would be the word.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I can't speak officially for reserve, but
Sure.
In my experience there, for those who don't know, reserve is now a decentralized stablecoin platform where anybody can launch their own stablecoin or asset-backed currency, I should say, on the register app that they have. And so, each R token is backed by certain collateral assets, which are carefully curated and chosen by those who deploy the R tokens. Right now, it's mostly composed of different yield-bearing stablecoins in DeFi. And it's usually a combination of at least a few different assets like that. And so these R tokens, with those assets as collateral, have their own native yield. And then the RSR token itself is used not only for governance on each R token, but as an over collateralization mechanism. So you stake RSR against these asset-backed currencies or stable coins, and the RSR acts as a major over collateralization kind of protection layer. And that's what makes our tokens on reserve some of the most stable assets that you can hold in DeFi, stable and secure. So, so with that overview, you know, the team and the community have been kind of mulling over, like, how do we bring on RWAs as collateral here, and what does that look like? I mean, how composable are they? Are they permissionless? Are they liquid? And so that's where, what I touched on earlier in terms of real estate, for example, it is semi-permissioned because it has 1 foot, even if it's tokenized, it has 1 foot very much in the traditional world. And it's not really so liquid. And so that's I actually, I'm still involved, very much involved in the community there. And I think we're going to probably be doing a lot of thinking on that, and having some workshops around, how to work RWAs into this model. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Do you see any other types of commodities or even products or primitives we haven't thought of yet that would probably be interesting to have as RWAs as backing for, other types of decentralized assets?
Well, gold is an easy option, because gold is universal. It's pretty liquid compared to other things. I mean, we Reserve recently held a conference in San Francisco called Monetarium, where there was a lot of high-level discussions on different topics like this. And one kind of like thought exercise that we had in one of our roundtables was the idea of an R token, a theoretical R token, hypothetical R token, as an index of everything, pretty much, as an index of like global wealth. And so that could be, a huge basket of commodities, or it could be an index of the S&P 500, or some combination of all of that. But it's a very interesting thought experiment, because once you start to scale out to that level, if you're an index of everything, and you're trading, like you're basically, how can I say, like tracking the value of global wealth, then what wealth, like then what's the contrast, like where do you find your value, the value of that R token in the context of that, if you're essentially tracking it. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting concept to kind of go over there. So that's taking it to the logical extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But the main idea is to create stable coins or stable asset-backed currencies that beat inflation, especially hyperinflation, and that can keep preserve your purchasing power. And so there's a lot of different ways to slice it. Could be, like you said, could be commodities. Could be real estate. Could be tracking major indexes. But yeah, that's the general gist of it, the general thrust of it.
Yeah, I'm personally looking for how we tackle. So one big thing that people may not realize about Web3 is that in the Web3 ecosystem, you own your data. You go from, companies in Web2 farming your data to you owning your data, and really you're kind of I guess they're still farming you in a way, but trying to find a way to maybe even pay for privacy, or to possibly commoditize your information. I could definitely see the ability for you to choose a medical provider by purchasing shares in a membership pool or something like that. The ability to it's interesting, because when you look at something like this, you don't really have credit, uh, clear credit at least, right? With regards to with regards to, you know, buying and selling loans, you just, if you have the capital, you can take a loan out on it with your own collateral, because that's how that works in Web3. You are your own bank. So in ways to find ways to leverage your crypto, or at least more information about yourself, especially as we move towards new things like private blockchains with private smart contracts, where you don't know anything about anybody else who's holding anything. How can you use that information to possibly create a new primitive of or commodity for an asset class to then monetize or tokenize,
Mhm.
for something? Is there going to be an info data brokerage, for example, in a more decentralized manner that's could lead to a revolution in predictive data analytics for advertising or marketing, for example, um, where oftentimes you see companies that just kind of generalize data about you based on where you live, your purchases, stuff that isn't necessarily tied to you, outside of your demographics, not tied to you personally. There are a lot of companies that are info brokers that do that. So maybe finding the next innovation to that to bring all of that on chain. And of course, you can make the argument, you know, data stuff like that, it's not efficient from a speed perspective. You can make all of those technological arguments, but yeah, for me, that's what I'm looking for,
Mhm.
is how can we use the information that we will own, to our advantage, or, you know, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's a interesting point, and I think, in terms of something I wanted to mention previously was that, in terms of like tokenizing everything like this, you mentioned, not having low quality mortgage-backed securities on.
Yeah.
But that's one thing about blockchain, is that it's transparent, and
Yes.
so that
For
does
now.
bring up an interesting question, which is, if this house of cards that Wall Street has built, or the global financial system has built, based around kind of like questionable assets, let's say, how does that continue to exist in a fully tokenized world? I mean, with that level of transparency. I mean, obviously there'll be still be some closed garden, like, some walled gardens, and some of it will be permissioned and private. But yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, and I think we're all waiting for, you know, when can I just use my crypto, or, you know, because there are a lot of people, um, you know, just knowing what I know about Reserve, there are people who automatically take their paychecks in certain countries and, you know, dump them into our tokens because they're not devaluing like their local currency is. How
Mhm.
to be able to take that, take those funds, move them to a market where market makers can then provide services for them, you know, with the infrastructure, you know, for how to pay down loans in the Web 2 world, or in the old world of banking and stuff like that. You know, how can I buy groceries and stuff like that? Stuff that people are doing now, but the settlement on the back end is a little fishy, right? They're like, it's going to be good until something bad happens, and suddenly the whole thing breaks.
Mhm.
Um,
I do think on-chain credit will become a thing at some point, inevitably. Yeah.
yeah, and there's quite a few that are out there leading the charge, like Clearpool, for example, in the whole under collateralized loan space, as opposed to an over collateralized loan, to build things like credit and stuff like that. I think they have a very interesting, um, protocol there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think finding credit in a world where you own all of your crypto, what does credit mean to you at that point? Um,
Could be,
what
it
would
could
be the
give
rating?
you it could give you certain. I mean, it could be, it could literally work kind of like how it has worked traditionally, which is it could allow you to borrow more. It could change. There could be DeFi lending platforms that have certain sort of, how do you say, like, semi-permissioned pools, lending pools, where it's like, okay, if your on-chain credit is at a certain level, you can borrow more.
Yeah, or you buy a token or something like that. You have a collateral in the game, and based on your performance, how long you've been there. Yeah, we could see a move to stuff like P2P lending markets. Obviously, you can have a score or credit rating based on on how well you pay back your loan and how quickly you do it, or how long you've been in the space. What we call the Lindy effect.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think Susan has a great point here. Is that we just have to find a way to catch up so it makes sense, because much like the reason why Apple has a monopoly, they found a way to make technology simple for the average person. If we can find a way to get DeFi to the average person and break it down to where it's simple for them, that's a core tenet of what we at Beacon are planning to do. So yeah, I'm excited for all of this. Do I want to tokenize everything? Honestly, no. There's some things I think are better. I don't know. At some point, everything's going to be tokenized. So just waiting for all the niche things like the genealogy stuff, or being able to have my whole health record on the blockchain, so it's easier to provide AI trained models for predicting cancer in my family or something. I don't know. Whatever is out
It's
there,
all going to merge at some point. Yeah, for sure.
it's all going to merge, and that's the thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, great conversation on that. Thanks for that. We'll go ahead and move to call for help real quick, and then we'll head home. Again, thanks to Robert Arthur Williams for being here. Um, Anything you want to plug, feel free.
Not plugging anything right now. Plugging myself. That's it.
There we go. If you like Robert, you want him part of your team, reach out to him. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right, call for help is our section where we answer your questions, whether you pitch them on TVL or if you email them to me. Today's question comes from Greg. He asked a great question last week. We'll answer this one this week. It's when writing your first ever investment plan with our 40-40-20 ideology. If you don't know what that means, please join our free group, school.com/speaking. Learn more about our 40-40-20 allocation plan to build an all-weather portfolio. What are the questions you ask yourself to get rolling? It's very simple. I'm glad you asked the question. You just have to know really just two things. What's your risk profile? And what are your goals? That's really about it, because it splits it into the idea that you have 40% in long hold assets, 40% in market neutral or stablecoin yields, and 20% in medium and high risk assets. So you have an engine of the 40 and the 20, the latter two, providing for the 40. So if you are holding BTC, ETH, and Sol as your long hold plays, you're looking for ways to accumulate more of that stuff. So you need to know your risk profile. How are you risk on? Are you risk off? And then ultimately, it's all about what you're willing to get into with regards to your risk, because the higher rates that you want, the further out on the risk curve you're going to have to go. There are plenty of great pools that are out there that you can get between 10 and 35% in various risk profiles. Stablecoins especially, you can find multiple stablecoin pools that give you 20% APY, not APR, APY. I mean, they're auto compounded. They are out there. We have multiple guides and multiple trainings on our groups to show you how to get into them. And the whole key about having an investment plan is to keep you honest, keep you accountable. Ultimately, it's the primary outcome of everyone who goes through our system in terms of what will work for you, instead of just kind of being out there and just flying by the seat of your pants and hoping that spray and pray, hoping that something works out. You should have a plan. It's very simple. People ask me all the time, when should I get out? I'm like, what do you have in your plan? Because your plan should dictate when you should get in and get out. You shouldn't be too emotional about what you have, and ultimately you don't marry your bags, and you don't give into FOMO when it comes to stuff like this, whether you're trading or if you're yield farming. You want to have a system. You want to have a plan that you can stick to with what we call an all-weather portfolio that works in any market condition. And yeah, if you want to know more, feel free to join our group. We've got all kinds of training material for that. For you, of course, not financial advice. Do your own research on that as well. Anything you want to add to that, Robert, before we head home?
I'm on the same page. That's how I manage my portfolio. Distribute risk accordingly. Always have a plan. Stick to it. Don't get wishy-washy. Don't start following, your favorite influencer too much, or some trend that's taking off. Like let's say like meme coins, for example, or some random tip you got from a Telegram group. stick to your guns. Yeah, have a plan in place.
Yeah, and honestly, the one reason why we love having our groups is that they give you an edge. Being in a group of like-minded investors is the key to succeeding in this game, because doing it by yourself sucks. Don't do it by yourself. Be in a group of people you trust, people that you like, people that are like-minded, like the many people in our group at TVL or in our Bacon Mastermind. And yeah, just be honest with yourself and come up with a plan that you can use to help keep you accountable. One thing I also say is treat this like a business. Be very mindful of the choices that you make. It's not about making the money, it's keeping it. Doing so in a safe and secure manner. Anyone can make the money. Even blind squirrels get nuts. I think I've said that 4 times in the last 48 hours. But it's all about how you keep it. And that's the puzzle that, groups like ours are here to help you solve. Because it's very easy to get lucky, to have the right timing, to, find something that does really well for you. But to continuously make those continuous calls, those plays, you need a plan. You need a framework to stay within. And that's the key. Be smart. Don't be a gambler, be a smart investor. Simple as that.
Totally agree.
All right. Well, thanks again, Robert, for joining us. Excited to have you back on panel on rotation. Join us next week. What's up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Great to be here. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, and of course, join us every week. We'll have a brand new panel next week as well. And I don't know exactly who's going to be on it, but I already have people booked for the next month in. So if you know anybody that you think would be a great fit for our show, talking about the week's news, getting some great insights and analysis out here, well, we would love to have mixes of all different types of folks out here. So, feel free to reach out to me. Let me know. Help be the hookup.
I will do that.
Appreciate that. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week, same time, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, here on our Twitter or on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow. And we'll see you next time. Beacons up, banks down. See you guys.
See ya.
Stick around, Robert.